Hi there, this week's question is, why do all apps and websites look similar? My name is Steve, this is TQA Weekly, and you're going to be learning some fundamental graphic user interface design principles that make applications a lot easier to use. And I'll explain to you the importance of doing that at the end. But for much of my audience, I want you to know that it's possible that many of you don't know where these come from. Why this is much better than the times where we had DOS, Windows 3.1, and 1990s websites. Because many of these conventions were in their infancy at that time. And that made the learning curve a lot harder for a lot of us to actually get into these applications and to get into those websites and actually use them. And there's a reason why it has evolved to what it is today. And we're going to start with the order of context, which is exceptionally important. The order of content dictates the location of titles, navigation, content on the page itself. You always want the user to know if they're using the right application or they're on the right website, which means the title is almost always to the left at the top or in the middle at the top, but it is always at the top. And since most people read from left to right, you very definitely want that content to either be in the left or in the center of the page. Which brings us to the next detail, navigation. Navigation needs to be almost immediately identifiable after the title, which means for most websites, we either put that on the right or just below it. Whether it is a horizontal bar or a vertical one, it is almost always readily identifiable under the title. And that actually improves usability and lessens the learning curve of the application or the website. Then which brings us to where the content lives. The content lives below this point. More important content has to be at the top, and less important content needs to be below the fold, and that is very important. You want the user to find what they are looking for immediately when they load either the website or the application. And there's a reason why we refer to that as being above or below the fold, because that means that they don't have to scroll, and that is exceptionally important in design. Now, whether you like it or not, there are other standards that come to the content itself, which includes the use of headers of various levels, as well as how we treat the actual content. In web design, we have up to 6 different kinds of headers, all of which are always supposed to be a bigger font than the actual page content. And going from header 1 to header 6 in that level of importance is very important when you are designing pages that are going to be indexed by search engines, as well as letting the user know what is a subsection of what area. Because if you just have level 1 headers throughout every single part of the page, and they happen to be subsections of the primary content, you would be confusing the end user in the end, and that is something we definitely do not want to do. So remembering that the primary headers have to be bigger than the secondary, tertiary, and other headers while maintaining a bigger font than the actual page content is important, because that is a visual indicator to every single one of us end users of what the order of content is and the importance of all of the content at the same time. And that also lets us know how the entire page is supposed to flow. Also, on the same note, that also makes those pages easier to index when they are properly formatted. Proper formatting of the page and application leads to applications and websites looking similar. But that also means that it is easier to use for the end user. And this is why that similarity is important. And that has to do with the learning curve. Most websites and applications do not offer tutorials upon first entry to explain how to use their product. And if you have to offer tutorial to the general public, it is probably not going to be very easy and or popular for the more common end users, because that just means that you made something more complicated than it had to be. Simplicity is how all websites that are actually popular and make it thrive. If you look at many of the bigger companies' websites, the Facebooks and Instagrams, the Googles and YouTubes, Netflixes, all of the content that you are looking for is super easy to find without a tutorial. The way you design something and the simpler it is to use allows us end users to actually use it easier, and provided done and executed correctly, gives you more of a chance to become more and more successful. So if you are designing something yourself and you want to maximize your chances of success, follow the other websites. Many of the standards are there for a reason. Every single end user is expecting it, whether we are expecting it consciously or subconsciously. And this is why I design my own websites to look very similar to every other website. And I am also currently rebuilding every single website, including TQA's website, which very soon will have a major overhaul. But you won't need a tutorial to learn how to use it. So, like this episode if you like it, dislike it if you didn't, share with those you think can benefit from this, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for topics, email me at ask@tqaweekly.com, or go to my website, tqaweekly.com, where you can see show notes on this episode, past others, find other ways of subscribing, and use the contact form to email me directly. And if you want to see me play video games such as Watch Dogs Legions or even Assassin's Creed Valhalla very soon, head over to twitch.tv/zaxis1981. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.